Hello everyone, my name is Nathan and I want to thank you for joining me for the third video in the 2020 Teen Summer Writing Series. In the first video, you explored some topics you can write about and some types of creative nonfiction that you might be interested in. The second video explored the narrative arc in forming a pitch. In this short video, I'm going to cover how you get that first draft down on the page. By now, you should have a pretty good handle on what you want to write about. You've narrowed your topics down from a pretty long list. You've thought about what they could look like in different creative nonfiction forms, thought about the structure that you might use, formed a pitch, and presented your pitch. Hopefully you've received some good feedback and have had a chance to think about that feedback a little bit. The next thing for you to do is to start writing. Wait, what about an outline? There are some instances where outlining is going to serve you well when writing creative nonfiction. Let's think about the example from Truman Capote's In Cold Blood that's in the workbook. It's a shining example of long-form journalism where you should consider making an outline. If you have a lot of facts that need to be tracked through your narrative, making an outline is going to help. However, if your piece isn't in a form or about a topic that has a lot of data for you to track, I want you to consider abandoning your outline for your first draft. Here's why. When you write an outline prior to the first draft, you become more focused on the outline than you are on the feeling of your story. You've spent a lot of time by now thinking about your story, where it's going to go, and how you're going to get there. It's been floating around in the back of your head, and by now, you need to start getting it out. By diving right into the first draft, you're better able to focus on the feel of the emotional appeal of your story. That's the thing that's going to help you distinguish your creative nonfiction piece apart from the dryness of traditional nonfiction. This again goes back to Aristotle's rhetoric. Remember, we talked a little about Aristotle figuring out the beginning, middle, and end thing in the last video? Well, Aristotle also talked about this thing called ethos, pathos, and logos. So pathos is the emotional appeal that your story elicits from your reader. If you focus on the facts and bullet points of an outline first, and then try to go back and add in the emotional appeal, the pathos, you're going to find that it's more difficult to fit in. For that reason, particularly for shorter works, I jump right in and focus on the pathos of the story, its emotional appeal. I can always go back in and insert the facts. Besides, I bet if you think about it, you probably know most of the facts by now anyway, and they're going to make it into your story in some form or another. Many newer writers become intimidated by the thought of diving right in. I'm going to let you in on a secret that isn't really a secret. Seasoned writers know that first drafts are usually pretty crummy. Frankly, they're often a mess. Things can be out of order, confusing, unpolished, and when you get right down to it, they can make you question your abilities as a writer. The great thing about first drafts is that the writer is usually the only person to ever see them. I don't even show my first drafts to my wife. She usually sees the second. Apprehensions about first drafts are easily set aside once you realize that you're the only one that's ever going to read them. Unless you're planning on putting together a workbook like the one we're using in this series, your first drafts may not actually ever even be put into ink. Your task this week is to write your first draft. Treat your first draft like it holds no more weight than having a simple conversation with yourself. Go off on tangents, stray away from the topic a little. Most importantly, have fun. If you can write it all down in one sitting, great. If not, keep at it until you have it all down. It's no big deal, it's just your first draft. Once you have that first draft down, set it aside for a day or two before you look at it again. You're going to appreciate having a little distance from it. Next week, we're going to talk about outlining between your first and second draft, how to do a self-review before you start your second draft, and then you're going to take that first draft and turn it into your second. That's a busy week. Until then, happy writing.